We're going to be talking today about creating leaders through culture. I know most of you all here know me as Sandy with Lightwave Dental. And before I was Sandy at Lightwave Dental, I was Sandy from Smiles for Centerville. I worked with Dr. Bruce Hutchison here for almost 32 years in his practice, and we grew that from a practice of 2 operatories. I was the third operatory that we opened. When I started, he had 2. We had one other hygienist. And when I left, we had 35 employees and 17 operatories. So a lot of years, a lot of growth. So I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Hutchison.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here, and we hope we're going to get you something that's you're going to be able to take back to your office, make your office even better than it is today. You know, Lightwave is pretty happy, pretty pleased with the culture of Lightwave, what we try to spread around, and Sandy brings it to your office, I know, because she caught it from us. And it's important. It's really important to know who you are, where you're going, and how to get there. So we hope that you take advantage of this today. We hope you learn something new that you didn't know before. It's like most things, most of this stuff you've heard before, most of this stuff you've learned before, but we just kind of forget sometimes, you know, where we are and what path we should be on. So we're going to start the morning. Everybody up.
Anybody's ever had a meeting with me, you know, we always have to start with some energy. So here we go. Okay, thank you. Guys can be seated.
Now, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious when you look around the room, the energy in this room 5 minutes ago versus the energy in the room today, right this minute. It changed. It changed because you changed where your posture, you changed your attitude, you got into things, you had a little happiness, you had a little fun, and you stretched a little bit. You got your body out of its normal sit there and watch mode. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for participating. It's important to be involved.
So what is culture? I know we heard about culture yesterday as well. I looked up the definition of culture, and it's the attitudes and behaviors of employees within an organization. And the culture is what keeps your employees at the practice. Culture is what makes your patients leave happy. Culture is what gives your patients that feeling when they walk in that they want to come back, that they love your practice. If you had a practice that had a poor culture, your patients definitely feel it. They definitely know it. It doesn't feel like home, as Beth talked about yesterday. It doesn't feel like a place that they feel comfortable coming back to.
Your office has a culture. You can't help it. Any group of people you're with has a culture. It's who you are. It's how you act. It's how people perceive you. And the thing is, you have a choice. You can let the culture happen, or you can make your culture happen the way you want it to be.
And culture eats strategy for breakfast. So you can be a great practice. You can have great processes in place. You can do great dentistry. But if you don't have a good culture, you will not be successful. It's like we heard yesterday. It's not what you do, what you say. It's how you make people feel that they remember and that they come back to.
Strategy is important. You've got to have a plan. You have to have a plan of where you're going and how you're going to get there. However, if you don't have the energy behind that plan, where's that plan going to take you? It's not going to take you very far. So strategy is important, but culture is going to overrule that, and it's going to make your strategies work.
So we talk a little bit about what makes a good culture. And one of the first things that makes an amazing culture is accountability. Knowing what you're accountable for, what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. Imagine if your children had no rules. They didn't know what they could do, what they couldn't do. They would have no way to know what their job was within their household. So having processes in place, having job descriptions in place, so people know what they're accountable for and know what they come to work every day to do. That makes people happy because they know that they can live up to those expectations or not.
There was a story about accountability. New York City, one of the public schools had a playground outside the school, half of a city block, and all the children played in the middle of that city block, because there were no fences around it. They didn't know what the borders were. They didn't know where they were allowed to be. They put a fence around that half block area, and all of a sudden the kids are using the entire playground. They knew where the boundaries were. They knew they could go right up to that boundary. So knowing where those boundaries are, knowing where they're set for your staff, for you, for the whole office, really puts the accountability into action. Like, I know how far I can go, and I'm happy to go there.
The second thing that's super important within a practice is communication. I'm a huge communicator. I do my clinical newsletter, my Monday updates, because I love everyone feeling like a community and being informed. And I feel like it's so hard in a dental practice to keep that same communication up and running. Imagine if you're in your practice, you're the last person to learn something. That makes you feel so terrible because you're the last person to know. Everyone else found out about it, but you're the last person to know. So making sure that you have a communication platform within your practice, you have team meetings, you have ways that everything's announced to the whole team. People are aware of how the business is doing. They're aware of when the doctor's on vacation. They're aware. It just makes people feel really stupid, which they're not. That makes them not feel happy if they don't know what's going on within the practice.
In a small group, 4 or 5 employees, I'm not sure you ever have to have a meeting. You don't have to have a newsletter. You don't have to have anything, because when I had 4 or 5 employees, everybody knew everything about everybody all the time, because all we did was bump into each other all day long. Now I've got 30 employees. Quite frankly, I don't even see some of them some days. I'm not sure who's in the office some days. And I shouldn't be going around, seeing who's at the front desk and who's not. I should be back there being a dentist, and they should be up there doing their job. But if we don't have that accountability or that communication like Sandy's talking about, you want everybody to know what's going on, because how does it feel when you don't know what's going on? No one likes that feeling. No one wants to be, geez, like Sandy said, everybody knew this but me. How come I'm the last to know? No one wants to be in that position. So making that extra effort, making yourself communicate, even when you think it's not necessary, it's necessary.
So there's several ways to do that. You can do text chains. There's like Slack. There's Telegram. There's several different platforms on your phones that you can utilize. And there's also like a newsletter, like my newsletter I put out. I used to put a newsletter out every Sunday evening with the schedule, what was going on within the practice that week, any lunch and learns. Just a really great way to keep your team informed. And the last one is my favorite, is making work fun. And everyone thinks that to make life fun, you have to spend money to make life fun. But like this morning, that song, I probably at some point paid for that song, $1.25. But just having music in the practice, having like writing appreciation notes, having things spontaneous, getting up on a Friday morning and going in and decorating the office for Cinco de Mayo. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but it just really makes for a different day in the practice if you make it fun.
Making it fun makes people feel included. Back when we had paper paychecks, the doctors would often write something on the paycheck. Hey, thanks for being a great employee. And Sandy told me she saved every single one of those notes. It's pretty incredible. They were that important. How long did that take? That took 30 seconds. How much did that cost me? The ink and a pen? It didn't cost a thing. And yet it is so impactful that somebody who was there for 32 years kept every one of those notes. Wow, what a great thing to do. So, every once in a while, just jot down a little note. Hey, I really appreciate you because you did this. Thanks. Who gets one of those notes and doesn't have a big smile on their face? Do you feel included? Of course you do.
So how do you create this good culture? I know you're thinking these are all great ideas, but where do we start? The first thing you have to know is what you want your culture to look like. You have to have it. You have to know what you're looking for in order to have it. So I know on the app, on the CVent app, we put in there what the culture looks like at Centerville. It's a list of, I think, 26 different items of things like leave your baggage at the door, come prepared, be ready. But having those things written down is so important, because that way you know what you're looking for each and every day. You don't have to copy the culture that we had. We actually got that from Crown Council years ago. They'll give you a starting point. You can go over that list of culture items and decide what is it that your practice is looking for.
It's really important that you get your staff to buy into what your culture is. They know what your culture is. And now do you want to decide, do we want to keep it where it is, or do we want to make it even better? It's your choice.
And you want to think, what do you want to be remembered by? I know Dr. Hutchison has a great story on this one.
So when I was growing up in a little town in western Pennsylvania, I would see these, Dr. Smith or whatever, walking down Main Street, and everybody would say, "Hey, Doc, how you doing today?" They'd tip their hat, they'd say hi, they'd slap them on the back. And I was growing up, I was a kid, I go, I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy. Now, the funny thing is I now practice and live in Centerville. We don't have a Main Street. We don't have a downtown. But still, I want to be remembered as that guy that everybody knows, everybody respects, they love, just because you've done all the right things.
And you want to make sure you use the things in your culture as how you hire your people. There can be great people that come through your practice that just aren't a right fit for your practice. I know I talked to someone yesterday about you could be a square peg in a round hole. You're a great person. You just need to find that square hole that fits you. So making sure that you use your culture as a guideline. When we used to hire employees, usually the team would take them to lunch. The team would talk to them. I would interview them. Kim would interview them. We want to make sure the team understood who that person was and that they felt like they were a good culture fit. And in that same token, you need to make sure you also coach people in that direction. So you may hire someone that may not fit perfectly, but you know the direction you want to coach them because you know what you want them to be within your practice.
And Sandy's right. Doctors in the room, your staff knows your staff better than you do. Your staff knows your culture better than you do. They're the ones that really need to have some input into that new employee. Are they going to fit into who we are? There are a few bad people in the world, but most people have a lot of good in them, have a lot of good things in them. But that doesn't mean they fit with us. And that doesn't make them bad. It doesn't make us good. It doesn't make anybody anything. It's not a good fit. So why make something like that, squeeze something together that's not going to work? Trying to mix oil and water. It is never going to work. And you know that up front. You talk to these people and you say, I love you, Sandy. You're great. And you will be great somewhere else. And let them go. And the truth is she is. She's awesome where she is now. She was awesome where she was before.
And you also want to review that culture to keep it fresh in everyone's minds. At Centerville, we get up every morning at our morning meeting. We go through every one of our culture guides for the week. So if our focus this week is being ready, that's what we talk about that week. We talk about it on Monday morning, and then each morning we talk about that week. So you can't just write something down, put it in a paper, or put it on the wall somewhere and expect everyone to keep remembering that. You have to continue to go over it over and over again. So everyone that's new to the team, people that people forget all the time, but just going over those things all the time so people are really aware, like, this is our culture, this is important.
And it's a really valid question to ask your staff. This is who we said we were going to be. Are we being this? Are we holding true to what we said we were? And that's really good for coaching people. Like, you said you wanted to be this person. I'm doing everything in my power to help you get there. What do you need from me because you are not being that person? I'm not angry at you. I'm not angry at anything. You just aren't being who you said you were. And what a valuable lesson it is to have a coach who wants to help you get to be where you want to be. Some people take it as, well, you don't like me. That's never the case. It's not about emotions. It's about, you said this. I'm trying to help you get there.
So how does this create leaders? You're thinking, okay, you have a great culture. Why do leaders come out of this culture? And the first thing you have to do within a culture is listen. I know there's nothing that upsets me more to walk into an office and see doctor's doors that say closed or practice manager's doors that say closed. Because if that door's closed, there's no opportunity to share ideas. There's no opportunities for your doctors or your practice managers to listen. I've came up with a lot of crazy ideas in my day, and many times they were so crazy that the doctors were like, yeah, we're not going to do that. But it sparked other ideas. So listening to every idea is so important, because even though your idea may be really outside the box, there could be something from that idea that will work in that practice.
And you have to make an effort to listen. Many of us, Sandy would be one, she'll walk up and tell you what she thinks every minute of the day, and that's great. But some people are more shy. They're held back. They've got great ideas too. So every once in a while, if you have an employee who's not really participating, maybe you owe it to take them aside and say, hey, what do you think? What do you think about this? And you know what? Every once in a while, they'll just shock you crazy that, what a great idea. Why didn't you bring that up before? Well, I don't want to talk in front of other people. And all of that happens. So sometimes listening means active listening, going out and asking questions now and then to really get the answers.
The next thing that's really important to build a leader in your practice is having trust. Trusting your teammates that you know they're going to make the right decisions. Trusting your teammates to do things maybe not exactly how you would do them, but it's going to be something that's going to work for them and work for your practice.
And trust is a two-way street. You know, I can't expect you to trust me if I don't trust you first. I think you have to, as a leader, you have to take a leap of faith. I am going to trust you. I will trust you. Now, I might find out later I can't, and that's okay. It's a lesson learned. But I have to be the bigger guy here. I have to be the one that says, I trust you first. Now I want you to trust me. It has to go both ways. This is a story that Sandy got a kick out of the story when I told it to her. This is about a guy had a 12-year-old son. His son, he said, my son's 12 years old. He ought to be mowing the lawn from now on. You know, he's old enough. He's big enough. He needs to get some responsibility. So he took his son out. He showed him how to put the gas in the mower, how to start the mower, how to go at the mower. And he showed his son exactly how he wanted it to have done. He came home the next week when his son was supposed to mow the grass. And his son's zigzagging through the yard like this. And he goes, stop. He goes, you're not doing it the way I told you to do it. He said, I told you to mow in straight lines, back and forth and back and forth. And the son said, Dad, that's not how I see it. My mind doesn't work that way. I would rather do it my way. He says, well, I want it done right. He says, Dad, what result do you want, Dad? He said, I want it green, I want it clean, and I want it neat. Got it. So he came home the following week, the lawn was green, it was neat, it was clean. The following week, it was neat, it was green, it was clean. He came home the next week, he goes, how's he getting there? And he's still zigzagging back and forth. And he's pulling out his hair thinking he's not doing it right, but yet he's getting the result I want. So sometimes your staff won't do everything exactly the way you want it to be done, but is the end result getting done? Is the project getting accomplished? Who cares how they got there? They might have a better way than you have. Maybe you're supposed to zigzag across the lawn. It worked. It looked great. So don't hold people accountable so much to how they do things. It's did they get the job done?
And that goes back into trust. Another thing we have to pay attention to is that we're not creating managers in our practice, we're creating leaders. When you create managers, you're creating people that tell people what to do. I worked with a really great dental assistant quite a few years ago, and she was a great manager, but she was so difficult to work with because she just barked orders at people. And that's not how you create leaders, and that's not how you create a good culture within your practice. So you want to make sure that you don't have people that demand things. You want to make sure you have people that coach the right things to do. You don't want to issue ultimatums. You want to create enthusiasm. You want to make people excited to do something. You don't want to say I, you want to say we, like we do this. You don't want to use people, you want to develop people, make them better. You don't want to take credit, you want to give credit. You don't want to place the blame, you want to accept the blame. If something goes wrong and you're in charge of that person, I get it. My fault, I didn't give you enough direction. Don't be placing blame. That makes people feel horrible. Say go. Don't say go, say let's go, like let's go Lightwave. And your way, like Dr. Hutchison said, isn't the only way. There's strength in unity. There's more than one way to do it. You need to be willing to allow them to expand and do it their way. That's what creates leadership within your practice. I love this quote. Good leaders inspire people to have confidence in their leader. Great leaders inspire people to have confidence in themselves, allowing people to spread their wings, allowing people to do things in a way that makes them feel accomplished and like they're a part of the practice.
So take the time to help those people become leaders themselves. Yes, it takes a little more effort and time to get someone off and running. You know, there's inertia. They're sitting still. You have to get them moving. You have to get them going, getting their job done. But once they get going, your life gets easier. You don't have to tell them every single day, get up and go get this done, get up and go get this done. If you're a manager, you're going to have to tell them every single day, go do this, go do this, go do this. How does that work for you? It doesn't make them feel good. You keep having to remember every day, I have to remind them to do this, I have to remind them to do this over and over and over again. Whereas if you can create a leader out of that person, help them understand what the goals of the office are, what your strategies are, and fit into the culture that we have. Get them to understand and own that project. Now you don't have to manage anymore. They have it. And they may need direction now and then, and you can offer that now and then. But don't watch over them, like a hawk watching for the next rat running across the field. Let them go and let them do their job, and they will surprise you every day.
So how do you grow your team? I know when you came in, there was a piece of paper laying on everyone's chair. Several years ago, I was in a Lululemon store in the back of the store in a dressing room. And on the wall, there were these goal pages for all the employees. And it told like what their goals were, where they were today and where they wanted to be. So I brought that back to our practice, and we did that within our practice with all of our employees. But if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So you don't know where to go. So you have to have an end game of where you want to be, what kind of leader you want to be. I know years ago, probably 15 years ago, I had put on my goal sheet that someday I would love to coach hygienists in a bigger setting. Never knew I would actually make it, but here I am. So writing those goals down, most people don't even think about where they want to go. They just show up to work every day. So that helps create leaders, is giving them a pathway to get to where they want to go. And offering education, like really pushing education within your practice. Educate your team. Education empowers people. It makes them feel amazing. Abby, show your book. Doing book clubs. Centerville right now is reading The Energy Bus, which is one of my favorite. Having book clubs with the leadership team so everybody gets together and they learn how to be leaders together.
Great. The goal setting part it was amazing when we went through this project. We actually went through goals, personal goals, 5-year goals, 1-year goals, your personal goals, your financial goals, your office goals, professional goals, and we hung them up on the wall with your photograph. And it was amazing when you look back at it, how many of those goals actually happened. I don't know how many of you understand or actually do visualization. The truth is you all do it. You see something about you in the future. You see how you are in the future. And you will become that person. You will. You absolutely will. Because you can't have that vision and not do everything in your power to get there. It's not even conscious. It's subconscious. So why not make that picture of who you're going to be in the future or where you're going to go or what you're going to do? Why not make that the picture that you want it to be as opposed to the one that someone else puts in your head for you? Because that picture's there. We all have it. We all have it. And so put the one in there that you want to be. Like Sandy said, she wanted to be a hygiene coach. Well, how the heck is that going to ever happen? Well, guess what? She's doing it now. We had people in our office, they had these goals, and most of those goals, many of those goals were they're going to leave our office. And many of them did. And they're doing exactly what they want to be now. They're there. And I like to feel like us going through this whole goal setting process helped them decide who they wanted to be in the future. So I encourage you to use these sheets and look at them and try them out. I think you'll be pretty surprised that when you fill it out with some intention and put it away and pull it out next year and see how close you are to where you wanted to be.
And the digital file is also available on the speaker profile in the CVEN app for you. So again, education empowers, education creates more opportunities, not just leadership education, hygiene education. Making yourself a better hygienist makes you feel more like a leader. Taking more CEs, understanding the cutting edge technology. As dentists, expanding what you do, all of that empowers you to feel more like a leader.
Education is key to life, I think. If you're not growing, you're dying. There's no stagnant in the world. You're either growing or you're dying. A plant is either growing or dying. You're either growing or dying. How good do you feel when you're learning something new? It's always energizing. It always feels good to learn something new. I mean, I've been doing this for 42 years, and I've taken probably 30 hours of CE in the last month. I want to learn something new every day. I went to the University of Rochester, and our motto was Meliora, which is a Latin word, and it means always better. What a great motto. I mean, I kind of adopted that as my own motto for my life. Why wouldn't you want to be better tomorrow than you are today? And most days I am better than I was yesterday. Not every day, and sometimes I fail at it, and we all fail once in a while, but so what? The goal is to be better tomorrow than I was today, and a big part of that is learning something new, being educated, meeting a new person, developing a new relationship. There's always something that you can do to make yourself better the next day.
So what if your leaders move on? Dr. Hutchison talked about setting goals, and some of those goals caused the employees that he had within his practice to leave. And we've had a lot of employees leave.
So I'll go through some of these. Kim Davis, you all know Kim. Kim was with me for 32 years. I swore I'd never practice without her, and then all of a sudden she's gone. So what do you do when they move on? And then there was Amanda Garthwaite, again, our RDO in Hampton Roads. Again, she was with us for a couple years as an office manager. Her I guess, boyfriend at the time, moved, and she went with him. So we found a place in Lightwave for her, started off as an office manager, and then we said, you know what? She's really bright. We're going to make her an RDO. And she's doing great. Sandy, our director of clinical support. Abby, my office manager, was my number one dental assistant. How painful it is that when you have a dental assistant that understands what you're going to do next every single time. They're like, I can't miss a beat because she won't let me. And then all of a sudden, she's gone. And it's, you know, you got to take one for the team now and then. And so I've taken one for the team a whole bunch of times here.
And actually, we have two dentists in Lightwave. Dr. Mark Ewan, that's in this office, he works at Smalls for Centerville. He actually shadowed in our practice. Dr. Matt Dudak, that works for Northern Virginia Pediatrics, he shadowed in our practice. So we're very proud of the fact that we've coached and improved these people to move on, do great things with their life, and become great leaders.
But the truth is that all of you are in the same boat. You know, most of us could view our practices, our practice family, as our family, an extension of our family. We all feel that strongly. And I love my family. I love the people that work for me. I adore them. You know, they make my life better. And so if you love someone, don't you want the best for them? You know, Dr. Gorman one time said, and my wife experienced this when our daughter went to college, you know, my wife cried the whole way home from Georgia Tech back to Virginia for 10 hours when she went to Georgia Tech 12 years ago. And I said, well, when she was born, didn't you want her to go to college? You know, you want your kids to get out there and go to college. Yeah, it hurts like hell when they leave the house. You know, you don't want them to ever leave, but you do want them to leave. You know, I don't want Kim Davis, I don't want Sandi Synstad to leave my office. I want to keep them forever. That's pretty selfish of me. And we can all be selfish at times. But the truth is, they have an opportunity out there that why would I want to hold them back? Why wouldn't I let them go? So, you know, that their spirits, their free spirits, they want to get out there and do something bigger and better. It would be terrible for me to hold anybody back.
So most everyone that leaves our practice or left our practice, they become leaders in other due to the culture, the processes, and the ability to perform at a high level that they were allowed to do at Smalls for Centerville. So a little shout out here for Smalls for Centerville. Just very thankful for the opportunities they gave me and the leadership skills I learned there over the years. So in conclusion, you want to develop a good culture, have it written down.
Trust your team. Allow them to grow. Listen to them.
Have constant and never-ending improvement. Always encourage education.
Set goals and help other people set goals. Let them figure out their own lives and give them encouragement.
Be a leader and encourage others. Don't create managers within your practice.
And create a culture coach in your office, someone who's going to keep track of are we on line with who we said we would be.
And most importantly, make it fun. And I love this quote. Oh, sorry. To lead people, walk beside them. It's really important not to walk ahead of people, but to meet them where they are, to walk beside them, to show them the right things to do, to show them how to be a leader within your practice, and give them the opportunities and the skill set, the trust, and the listening that you can give them to make them the people that they want to be. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Any questions?